Good Friday morning, friends. Welcome back for another episode of the Finding God in the Dark podcast. My name is Don,
And my name is Jonathan.
and today we are looking at another Academy Award nominated Best Picture film
It's not
for
Best Picture, Best Actor.
Best Actor. Okay, for Ethan Hawke,
Yeah.
who was amazing, but we'll
Yes.
get to
It
that.
was. Yep.
The film is called Blue Moon.
Mhm.
It was directed by Richard Linklater,
Yep.
I believe,
Yep.
and is basically the story of Richard Rodgers' songwriting theater partner before Hammerstein,
Yeah.
and his sort of, I don't know, you want to call it his sad demise, I guess.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
As John said in our text conversation last night, this is a profoundly sad film. Uh,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yet it really, I mean, it's not like a tearjerker.
No, no. It's just, yeah. And what I thought was really interesting was it is described as a comedy and drama, and I can totally see the drama, but I didn't see any comedy. I would not say there was a moment of comedy in there.
I mean, you know, in a, I guess it's our pastoral nature here,
Yeah.
okay? So in a modern day sense, it would be a comedy in that you might laugh at this guy's situation.
Yeah.
But as pastors, I think we look at it and go, this is just wow, this guy's really sad. I mean, it's the kind of person that we I don't know about I'm going to speak for you and tell me if I'm wrong, John, but I feel like these are the kind of people we go in ministry for, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I'll be kind of vulnerable here. I really feel like I see myself in a lot of ways in him, and not in terms of the addiction. I will get into it, but like I really struggle with some of the issues he clearly struggles with, you know.
Yeah, I mean, for certain, he's dealing with self-image
Yeah,
stuff. He's dealing with feeling sidelined, put out of because this happens on the opening night. That the whole film takes place in this bar, which
yeah,
you'll see in John's background, on the opening night of Oklahoma, which was Rogers and Hammerstein's first work together.
yeah,
So it was really him experiencing being cut out of that relationship.
yeah.
Um, and it's not the only relationship that he gets cut out of in the film.
Yes.
Um, so it is well, I mean, where do we want to start? Because we can kind of blather about it and not really get to the point. So let's get to the point.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of places we can touch on, and maybe I'll save some vulnerable stuff for a little bit. We're not going to go counseling here, but I do think I will be honest, this movie profoundly hit me. Like it just really hit me really hard in terms of
Mhm.
thinking about my own life. So it was, it's one of those movies where it just kind of sticks with you. I'll probably be thinking about this movie for weeks, like processing it. But I mean, one of the low-hanging fruits, we kind of oftentimes start with that, is the conversation around how addiction, especially alcoholism, was really breaking this guy's career apart. Like, Lawrence Hart is his name. They call him Larry in the movie. Um, if you look up, I didn't do a huge deep dive into it, but if you look up the songs he helped write, he's a lyricist. There's some of the what would be called the American Standard songbook. Like he's probably got 15 to 20 songs that even people our age that were clearly after this movie, it's set in 43, we know. And of course, one of the songs that keeps getting referenced is Blue Moon. Obviously, that was one of the songs he wrote. So, but you see at least the movie portrays it as um, Rogers is kind of stepping out of the relationship in large part because he goes on benders. He will disappear for days. He isn't a consistent working partner because of his alcoholism. So it is a conversation around how addiction can really spiral and break your life. Like that's there.
Yeah, and it starts in the very beginning of the film, like, oh, he's gonna just put the bottle on the bar,
Yeah.
pour a shot, but I'm going to drink a shot of club soda and
I
just
just want to
open
look at
my
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just going to look at the
Yeah.
the shot, which he doesn't
Yeah.
ultimately just look at it, but
Yeah.
um yeah, and that aspect, obviously, for those who know my story, that aspect hits home for me as well,
Yeah.
because that's alcoholism. I often say alcoholism doesn't run in my family; it gallops.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I've been blessed to not have to deal with that, but
Yeah.
if I have addiction problems, it's probably more food issues than
Yeah.
than anything else. But yeah, and that's the first point where you start to go, okay, this guy is a real tragic figure, right? And he has that. I was struck by he has that sort of nature of the guy in school that knew a little bit about everything and had to get involved in every conversation, and he was just desperately looking for someone to want to be around him, you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
and that's a self-esteem thing, of course,
Yep.
but there's like so much more to it than that.
Yeah, I thought one of the powerful things about this film was they really deconstruct his alcoholism. By the end of the movie, not even really the end of the movie, maybe halfway through, you kind of get a sense of why he drinks. Like it isn't a mystery to it. You kind of understand, what he struggles with and what drives the drinking and how he basically uses drinking to self-medicate the pain in his life.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And part of that, again, we go with the self-image thing, but is that if you notice in the picture in
Yeah,
John's background, he's standing up.
yeah,
He is not sitting down, and he is like head over heels in love, obviously, by
yeah,
the time we get to it, with
yeah,
this woman in the picture.
yeah,
And she very obviously, we're giving this away, cat out of the bag, spoiler alert, go watch a film and come back. But she very obviously does not love him the way he loves her.
no,
For him, it's a romantic thing. For her, it's like, well, I love you because you're intelligent and you think that I'm beautiful.
yeah,
And being around you can get me more involved in the theater
yeah,
scene. Yeah, you know.
yeah.
Um, so she's in a lot of ways, she's just using him.
Mhm.
And look, any guy who has had a thing for a girl in junior high, you can identify with this. Okay,
Yeah,
we
yes,
can. Um, and that's like I said, he is this tragic figure. And the film starts off with him dying.
yeah.
And
And and them telling you he died, and
yeah,
you know,
and
yeah,
then it's like 7 months earlier, and you go back to this whole scene. Well, actually, no, there is the very beginning scene, like, so he dies in an alley, and
yeah,
then there's a scene where he's at the premiere of Oklahoma and he leaves as it's hitting the end and he
yes,
goes to the bar.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then the rest of the film is just in this bar.
yeah,
Um, so what else I mean, we talk about addiction, we talk about self-image, infatuation, I think is
yeah,
strong here,
yeah,
particularly with this woman.
yeah,
Um, Elizabeth was her name?
yeah.
Yeah.
By
Um,
Played by Margaret Qualley.
okay.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I guess I'll jump into my stuff. Counseling session.
All right, hold
But
on. Do you want to lay back on the couch while I get my notebook out?
sure, sure.
Go ahead.
Um, no, but I do feel like he's 5 foot tall. That we're kind of, he's a very, very short man. He also, I don't know if this is because of just how they had to set it up with Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke's close to 6 foot, so they obviously had to do quite a bit of weird shots and different things like that. But he walks with a clear limp or a clear issue, and I'm assuming that might have been something he was dealing with, maybe some kind of disability. I'm just guessing. But it really made me think about I am not alone in this. Most people with disabilities have deep issues around their worth, have deep issues around if they can be loved, if someone can truly love them. And he just had that 5 minutes in the movie. I'm like, oh, this is what we're unpacking. Like it, he clearly has these deep issues that I've honestly struggled with, still struggle with my entire life. One of the big questions in my life is it possible for someone, especially to be honest, a woman, to love me? Like in that romantic sense. And he clearly struggles with that. And he clearly is desperate to have a romantic connection that at least in the movie we don't ever see him get. And we hear several times throughout the movie. I think it's Vivian Lee that's mentioned that he asked her to marry him. Vivian Lee, if you don't know, was a well-known actress who was in Gone with the Wind. You know, and he tells the story a couple of times of asking her and other women to marry him. He talks about asking Elizabeth to marry him, and we think because he has a tendency to draw people in with how he tells stories. He likes to be kind of the center of attention, even though at the same time he feels like there's nothing to be interested in him about, which is again another issue. I was like, oh, this is like a disability movie. This is like all the issues people with disabilities work on. But you think he's kind of joking about the fact that he asked people to marry him. And then at the end of the movie, we see this very, very just gut wrenching scene where he honestly asks Elizabeth to marry him. And he's not faking it. He's not doing it as a joke. He's honestly like, I love you. Would you like to love me back and build a life together? And she says exactly what he said, Vivian Lee said to him, which is, I love you, but not in that way.
Way, yeah.
And I don't know, it was just one of those things where it's just like, oh my gosh, this is a major thing in my life. And
Mhm.
it was hard for me to kind of not realize that I need to keep working on it and thinking about it. And what was amazing to me is they did a really good job, I think, of showing you that he had a much lower sense of who he was than everybody else around him actually did.
Right.
Because you have all the time people wanting his advice. You have both Hammerstein, who has become the lyricist with Rogers, talk about how he basically mentored him and how he was like, I really wanted to talk to you about Oklahoma because I think you could have made this better. And then you have Rogers at one time. Um, Larry goes like, "Hey, I have this idea. I know you just want to work on a revival of one of their famous musicals together, Yankee and
Yeah.
King Arthur's Court." But he's
Mhm.
like, um, "Would you be willing to look at these pages of this thing I'm thinking up?" And Rogers goes like, "Of course, you're the reason I have my career." Like he just and you realize that people see him of deep value, but he does not see that in himself. He's convinced he has no value to give.
Again, that circles back to that whole self-image issue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It
And
it, it really go ahead.
well, I didn't know if I didn't have a chance to check this out, but they even seem to imply that the writer E.B. White, who wrote Stuart Little, got the idea for Stuart Little from him. Because
I did not know that. E.B. White wrote Charlotte's Web too, right?
yeah, but
Yes. Okay.
um, but he wrote Stuart Little, and in the movie, Larry talks about how he keeps this mouse in his apartment, and he feeds him, and then he dreams up the idea that he has all these adventures during the day because he always comes back and gets more food.
Mhm.
And I was just like, and he's like, how would you spell it? And he like spells out Stuart's name. And I'm like, oh my God, they're implying he came up with Stuart Little. Like, oh my God.
Could be. I mean, I didn't look into it that deeply. Um, it, there's a number of things. Now we talk about self-esteem.
Yeah,
This insecurity, I think, plays a lot into
yeah,
that as well.
absolutely.
There's this sense of, um, him trying to almost be something he's not.
Yeah.
Right? He talks throughout the film about, oh, come back to my place later. I'm having a big soiree
Yeah.
at my place later on, and
Yeah.
and you kind of knew from the very beginning that he wasn't, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he just stays at the bar, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
um, there's this whole sense of him just trying to create this grand illusion of himself that he doesn't have to because people already feel that way about him, you
Yes.
know. It's yeah, I mean, again, tragic. It's
Yeah,
tragic.
and you have these different people throughout the night that go in this bar. Of course, he's probably there all the time, but like they go out of their way to help him, and so they have to feel something for him and
Hmm.
have some kind of connection to him. But he constantly throughout the movie talks about, oh, you wouldn't be he even at one point goes like, oh, she Elizabeth says you're such a good listener. He goes, yeah, because he goes, I have no interest about myself. And you're just like, oh, okay, that's really sad. And then at the very one of the very last scenes, he drops a trick he was going to show her and kind of try to impress her with. And then he goes, yeah, she's going to come to my apartment and she's going to, maybe she'll really be interested in me this time. And I was just like, oh man, like this is just so sad, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Um, what else there was something else. There's a whole angle in this film about the art of the shows,
Yes.
and what is art
Yeah.
for, and what
Yeah.
because Larry seems to have this very high sense of what it should be.
What theater
And
could be. Yeah.
yeah, and what Rodgers and Hammerstein are just like, I want to make a great American musical.
Yeah. I
You know, I
mean,
want
yeah.
nostalgia. I want to, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, like Larry keeps saying, like, why don't we subvert the genre? Why don't we like what was interesting to me? I don't know if you thought about this, but I thought to myself, if that was really like what he was like, where he wanted to be edgy and he wanted to like deconstruct theater, and if that was really what he was thinking about, then he's like 30 years too early because, like, I feel like in the 60s and 70s, that would have been like the
right.
biggest thing ever.
He'd have been on the cutting edge of theater in the 60s and
Yeah,
70s. You're right.
yeah,
He'd have been part of, writing Godspell and Jesus
yeah,
Christ Superstar and films like
yeah,
that, or shows like that. I think it was, and maybe this is where some of the comedy is, right?
yeah,
Because he was talking about he wanted to write this great show. Um, and he was going to take little bits from all these other shows and just kind of lampoon them, like,
yeah,
make Porgy and Bess into cannibals, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's weird.
But yeah, but in another time, in another place, it would have been really popular, probably. Like, but in the middle of the World War II, that's not what people are looking for.
Right,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What did you think of the whole sort of side story with the author that was there? What was his name? E.B. Was that
Yeah,
E.B.
E.B.
White?
White. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was E.B. White. Yeah.
Okay. So what did you think of that? I mean, because White was initially talked about writing these essays.
Yeah,
And
it
he was
sounded
just
like
getting tired of that, and
yeah,
he was burned out on that. He
yeah,
says, I'm writing a children's book.
yeah, and that became Stuart Little. Um, but what's interesting to me, at least, is I didn't know E.B. White that way. Like I know E.B. White through Stuart Little. I know him through what you mentioned, Charlotte's Web.
Charles Webb, yeah.
I didn't. It appears, and I'm kind of more interested. Again, this is one of those movies where I'm like, I needed a day to like just go through and figure out where all these connections were. But it appeared like he wrote essentially op-ed pieces for newspapers about current events. Like that's what it kind of sounded like because he
Yeah.
talks about being burnt out and things. And it made me wonder, like, was he like a war correspondent? Was he like a, because he clearly has this very deep respect or deep kind of reflection on World War One. He talks about like the people who have died in World War One. And he talks about how many people will end up dying in World War Two, and it's just like that isn't a children's novelist. So like what was he doing? You know, what was he doing? Yeah, I thought their interaction was really fascinating about it almost felt like, and again, you get this sense throughout the movie was people almost looked at Larry as a creative sponge, like they were sponging ideas and concepts off of him. And I kind of felt like that's what White was doing was like you get the clear over the top one about Stuart Little, but it felt like he was like pulling writing ideas off of him. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was very obvious, and we don't know if this was historically true, but it was very obvious that White was interested
Yeah,
in talking with Larry. He didn't brush him off, when like you would think, here's this obnoxious guy in the bar, and I don't really want to talk to him.
yeah,
White was like, no, sit down, let's talk, tell me your story. It was an interesting angle. I mean, and again, I think it's in some ways this is almost a peek behind the curtain
yeah,
of artistic, particularly performing arts folks,
yeah,
who we look at, oh, these movie stars or these, actors or what do they have it all together and everything's wonderful and they own these $1 million homes and yet, you know, there's probably a lot of Larry in a lot of these people. They are just looking for affirmation. They're looking
yeah.
for someone to love them, and this is how
Yeah.
you know, they live it out.
Well, it was interesting about like the tension, especially between him and White and him and Rogers, was this kind of again, it was an interesting conversation that you kind of would have to unpack more because it wasn't the main thing in the movie. But this idea about is art about basically having people have a space that they can go and forget their troubles? Or is art something that should help people examine their troubles more fully or examine the world more fully? And Larry seems to be want to believe that he should be making art that kind of takes the problems of society and helps people look at it differently or engage it differently. And Rogers at least seems to be more like, no, I just want to make people laugh. I just want to make people, forget their troubles. I just want to kind of create a different world for them to engage in. Um,
One would wonder is, I mean, I know it's possible, but one would wonder, like, is it ideal to do both?
yeah,
Can we strive to do both, where you are entertaining people, you are, bringing nostalgia, and yet you're also touching on important issues and, making people think. Because
yeah,
again, this is one of those films going to make you think,
hmm
right?
yeah.
Maybe not quite as deeply as Begonia did. Uh,
To me, this is much more of an emotional movie. Like Begonia made me think about intellectual things. This one kind of makes me feel about gut stuff, like internal, you know. And I really mean this is one of the saddest movies I've seen for a long time. And it would be weird to because if I throw that out to most people, they're going to think I watched Schindler's List or watched a movie about, people being killed or people being kidnapped or something like that. And this movie doesn't really have a horribly tragic thing that happens, but yet you see this guy who is extremely talented but doesn't know that deeply wants to be loved and he keeps getting rejected. And you basically get to just sit here and experience it with him. And by the end of the movie, at least I was just like, okay, I'd like to watch something funny now.
Thing because this was supposed to be our palate cleanser.
Yeah, it was not.
I'm going to say it didn't fit the bill in that. Nonetheless, I mean, and we're not wrapped up yet, but really very good film.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I completely understood why Hawk got a nomination. Like
yeah.
it was an impressive work.
Yeah, he was, I mean, there was definitely makeup to,
Yeah,
make him look certainly less attractive.
yeah,
And I think again that plays into the self-esteem issue with
sure.
Larry,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He's not a good looking guy. He's not tall. So he's not tall, dark, and handsome.
No.
He's kind of short, not terribly attractive,
Yeah.
and you know,
Yeah.
but he's got that. And I think that's the whole personality type is just it's almost like you've got to compensate because you're not you know, as a lot of you see a lot of these videos nowadays, 666, right? The
Yeah.
6 foot tall, six-figure salary, you know, that kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and you know, he's none of that. Although he is, I mean, he lives Central Park West, so
Yeah. I'm sure
he's
he had a good.
monetarily he's doing okay, right?
I'm guessing he had a good chunk of money,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It was really interesting that he put every time. I'm pretty confident about this. Every time someone brings up something he wrote, he puts it down.
He
He puts it.
trashes it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just fascinating to be like, why can't you see how creative and talented you are? And why can't you recognize the fact that these songs that you wrote are songs that clearly have impacted people's lives and that they love?
Oh,
Like,
and are really timeless. I
yeah,
mean, look, you know, when's the first time you heard Blue Moon?
yeah.
You know, I
Like
think the first time I might
or
have
My
been,
Funny Valentine, or like we could go on, literally, we could go on
yeah,
and on, you know.
yeah. It's like Blue Moon was, I think it was the 70s. I heard it. It might have been in, was it Hollywood Nights or
Yeah,
Porky's or one of those comedy films? Might have been, Grease. Might even have been in
yeah,
Grease, right?
yeah,
I mean, yeah, very obviously he was talented, but he's almost self-deprecating to a fault,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Just I mean that's okay to say, hey, you know, particularly for us, right?
Yeah,
Like you write a sermon every week. Can people always want to, you know, compliment you on a sermon? And you know, that's it's difficult, right?
yeah,
Because there's certainly, I think in clergy, there's also this sense of, yes, you want to be accepted and lifted up and, you know, but you can't survive on that. And I know we've talked about this before, but you can't live on that. You can't count on that. And
yeah,
so in a lot of ways, like when I get that, you know, that good sermon or, you know, that was really powerful, you know, mostly I just thank you and that's it.
yeah,
I don't expound on it unless somebody wants to talk about it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because I think you can get full of yourself.
yeah,
But he's going the complete opposite direction. Larry goes the complete opposite direction. And he doesn't even, he cannot accept any kind of positive affirmation for his work. I think
yeah.
he's looking for that affirmation for himself and not for his work.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting that um, there's a scene. I think it's between who Larry calls Knuckles, which is the piano player, and the bartender, and they're kind of off camera. No one else is around them, and basically they see this beautiful Elizabeth walk in, and the piano player goes like, "There's no way she's." What's she doing with him is basically what he says. And what was interesting was the bartender was like, maybe she recognizes that he deeply loves beautiful things, and so she
Yeah.
loves the fact that he sees that in her. And I'm like, yeah, like you realize that she is probably using him, but at the same time, there's this moment where you're like, but why wouldn't is it impossible anyone could be attracted to him? Is it impossible that they would want, like that sense of we have a tendency sometimes to just feel like these people that don't fit the ideal, no one could ever want them. It's like, should we be that way? Should we automatically assume? Like, you know,
And you know, I think there's a sense also of, you know, artistic people are different.
yeah,
And, you know, kind of being in that world is
yeah,
not what you expect it is.
yeah,
You know, people outside of the artistic world kind of glamorize it,
yeah,
you know, but watch a documentary, watch a making of, you know,
yeah,
particularly some of these, you know, big budget films that we've seen, right? You know, oh, in order to get this look, the guy had to sit in the makeup chair for 6 hours.
Yeah.
or 8 hours.
Or like you get a documentary about like Hendrix um, or Kurt Cobain, and you start to realize this extremely talented person was deeply insecure and deeply dealing with their own problems and their own issues,
Yeah.
and they couldn't get out of their way, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
And bottom line turns out that these folks are a whole lot more like us than they want to admit.
yeah,
Because we're all dealing with stuff, right?
yeah.
So, um, so we're getting a little short on time. Anything else you want to say about this film? I think it's worth seeing, particularly for Ethan Hawke's performance.
Yes. Yeah, I would
Um,
definitely tell people I don't know why it's described as a comedy. I did not see comedy in this.
it's not a tearjerker like you mentioned. Schindler's List is absolutely a tearjerker. It's not sad in that sense,
No.
but it is sad in that you most likely will identify with this man in some ways, and it's going to bring up, you know, it may open old wounds for some people.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
You know,
also I feel like this movie did a wonderful job of even though you see all his faults and all his issues, you really want the best for him and you don't get any of that. Like it doesn't work out at all.
yeah, it's really interesting for being so broken. He's a very likable character,
Yeah. Yes. Mhm.
which is, you know, I mean, wait for yourself, folks. If you want to see this film, if you want to watch it, it's on Amazon Prime. You're going to pay
Yeah.
like $6 to rent it, but
Yeah.
um, worth seeing at least for Ethan Hawke's performance. So,
Yeah.
so we need to move on to what are we going to watch next week?
Your turn.
So yeah, it's my turn. I looked over the Academy Award list.
Yeah.
And there is one that's on Netflix right now. It's nominated for Best Picture,
Okay.
which surprised me. I haven't seen it yet. So there's a 2025 version of a classic old story.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going here?
I've seen it. Yeah. Yeah. But
Frankenstein?
yeah.
Okay. You've seen it. I have not seen it.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at that
Sounds good.
and we'll talk about it next week. I mean, this is one of those. Like everybody knows this story, right? Everybody knows the Frankenstein story until you don't. But it's definitely one of those, you know, if just because you can do something, does
Should
that
do.
mean you should?
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
we were already let a little bit of the cat out of the bag on that one for next week. But
Yeah.
so anyway, friends, so the film this week will be Frankenstein. You'll find it on Netflix. It is the 2025 version. And until next Friday, keep on finding God in the dark. We'll see y'all next week. Take care and God bless.
Bye.
Oh, hey, you made it all the way to the end of the video. Well, thanks for watching. We appreciate your support. And friends, if you find anything that's really wonderful or entertaining or helpful in your Christian walk, we want to encourage you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. We publish every Friday morning at 10 a.m. And we hope that you continue to find these videos and these discussions entertaining and informative. Take care and God bless. Bye.